Are you ready?
Yeah, when you're ready,
I'm gonna start the meeting.
This is your recording? Oh, it's over there? She got it over there, okay. Yep, you can start whenever you want.
Thank you.
Just make sure the volume is
Good
down.
evening, everyone. You would silence your phones, so as to not. Thank you. And we will call people in order of the way they are on the agenda. So if you got a copy of the agenda, that's the way they're being called. The Board of Alders notice New Haven. For 2022. In the Board of Alders chamber located at 155 Church Street, second floor. Number one, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Paul R. Mathio to the Commission on Aging. Number two, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Elena to the Life Commission. Number three, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of John Hibner to the Homeless Advisory Commission. Number four, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Emily Sigmund to the Board of Health Commission. Item number five, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Adam Martin to the Board of Zoning Appeals as an alternate. Number six, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Crystal Williams to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number seven, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Edith Wells to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number eight, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Antoinette Thorpe to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number nine, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Charles E. Warner Jr. to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number 10, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of Karen Jenkins to the Historic District Commission. Item 11, from the New Haven Board Solid Waste and Recycling Authority submitting a request to approve the reappointment of Rose Canita to the New Haven Solid Waste and Recycling Authority Board of Directors. And we have item number 12, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of Kathleen Dunham to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number 13, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of Melissa Mason to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number 14, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of Michael Moran to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number 15, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of George Perez to the Q House Advisory Board. Item number 16, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of Sean Reeves to the Q House Advisory Board. Item 17, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the reappointment of Malcolm Welfare to the Q House Advisory Board. Order, Honorable Rosa Flores, Centennial Chair, attached to Honorable Michael Smart, City Town Clerk. These items are on file and available in the office of the City Clerk, room 202 at 200 Orange Street, New Haven, Connecticut, 06510. For accessibility related accommodations, please call 203-946-7651 voice or 203-946-8582 TTY TDD. Public comment testimony may also be submitted via email to public testimony at newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. This meeting may be viewed on the New Haven Board of Alders YouTube page. Thank you. And I'd like to acknowledge, oh my God, I almost didn't recognize you for a minute. Good morning. I thought you were someone else.
Sorry for being late.
No, that's okay. I'd like to acknowledge the committee members. To my right.
Alder Gerald Antunes, Ward 12, Quincy Meadows.
Alderman Van Hamilton, Ward 24, Edgewood.
To my left.
Alder Alex Guzman, Ward 1, downtown.
Alder Evelyn Rodriguez, Ward 4, The Hill.
Alder Rosa Ferraro Santana, Ward 13, Committee. I think you got some tan on you.
Yeah, makes sense. I got
You
a
got
new
your hair.
haircut. Yeah, new
Exactly,
haircut.
you threw me off.
Sorry about that, Alden.
We joke around sometimes. We're
It's
not,
okay to laugh.
it's okay to laugh, you know, we're all here to, you know, talk and get to know each other too. First person to come on up is Paul Maceo. Is he here? The next person is Elena Greenwald. Come on up, you can sit in one of those chairs. And you're being appointed to the Fair Rent Commission. You can take your mask off to speak. Tell us a little bit why you'd like to sit on the Fair Rent Commission.
Sure. So we have an affordable housing crisis in New Haven, and so I'd like to do my part to help. I currently own a 3-unit building in New Haven that I rent out, and I experienced firsthand just how people are struggling to find housing when I have listed apartments and have been kind of flooded with people applying, many people with small children telling me about how they've struggled to find housing. And I think the Fair Rent Commission is a really amazing group that can help to make a difference to make housing more affordable for people and also be very fair in that process. I'm a landlord, so I can kind of take that perspective as well of understanding what it's like to need to address tenants' complaints and so kind of be able to see both sides. And then also my background is in data, so I love looking at data, and I think that'll be really helpful for looking at, you know, what is a fair rent in the area and kind of understanding the numbers that are presented as a part of the work of the commission.
Being that you're a landlord, and could you put yourself in a position to extract yourself if you see similar items that are being discussed that may affect you as well?
So can you give an example?
I don't have an example. I just put that out there. Because sometimes things come up and you have to take a step back, just like us.
Yeah.
You know, we do have to take a step
I have
back.
also been a tenant in New Haven as well, so I've been on both sides of, you know, being a tenant and maybe having a landlord group who is not the most responsive, so I can understand what that perspective is like as well. And, you know, my sense is that it'll be helpful to kind of be able to have that perspective. And like I said, I look at data, so, you know, when you're looking at data, you have to be looking at the facts. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And
I'll just
any
give
further
you
com-
the name and address for the record, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I forgot.
my apologies.
Go ahead.
My name? Okay, Eleanor Graywall, and my address is 130 Edgehill Road, Connecticut, 06519.
Yes, Alder.
Thank you, Chair Santana. Good evening, ma'am. So, you sound like you're passionate, and can judge both sides of the coin from the landlord as well as the tenant perspective. But availability also is an important thing. Attending meetings, being there, you know, are you available, if confirmed, to attend these meetings? Do you know when the meetings will be held and all that?
Yes, the meeting, my understanding is every month on the third Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. And I currently have no commitment that conflicts with that and can keep it available. Also, perhaps relevant, I am the chair of the East Rock Community Management Team at this time. So I do run a monthly meeting, and I'm well aware of how important it is to show up to those meetings. And, you know, it's always, you know, I'm always chasing people down to make sure they show up. So, you know, I can understand that it's very important to show up. And, you know, my understanding is the meetings are currently on Zoom as well. So I have an internet connection and have attended many Zoom meetings, so should be able to attend.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you, Chair.
further questions? Elder Rodriguez.
Nice to meet you. In reference to a letter that was submitted to us by the Executive Director of Fair Rent, it states in her paragraph 4 of the letter that you are a world-renowned data science leader. and assist the commission on data analysis. And it also indicates in that same paragraph that you are also serving in providing information to the public, and you have enjoyed being able to do so whenever possible. Understanding that this is a very important place that you are in, how do you see the confidence and the confidentiality of the work that you're going to be doing with city residents and their issues regarding landlord tenants and the work that you're doing world renowned in terms of publishing or anything like that?
So as I mentioned, I am the chair of the East Rock Community Management Team, so I'm very aware of what it's like to run a public meeting and make sure that it is fair, that all the voices are heard and people are respected and privacy is respected. My work as a data scientist is in many different fields. In particular, I teach data science at the Yale School of Environment, and I've worked for different efforts. I have a degree in education, so I've looked at data on school desegregation programs and many different areas. And so, as the chair has mentioned, our sense is that this will be a benefit to the commission, because as we decide what is fair and what isn't, we'll need to look at data on what are the rental prices and what is going to be a fair increase versus a not fair increase based on some of that information. And so that's something that I can kind of bring to the table of, let's look at the numbers, let's see what is the trend and what is really reasonable here and what is perhaps unreasonable, and keeping in mind that we do have an affordability crisis in the city right now.
If I may, Chair, I thank you in the sense that you bring this knowledge and this expertise. What I'm a little concerned about, and I just want to make sure and I want to hear it from you, is that you will take discretion. One thing is to provide data and information and findings, and another thing is to protect the privacy and the confidentiality of the very people that are going to you to provide a channel of mediation between tenant and landlord. So I trust that you will be doing this.
Definitely, yeah, I think that is critical for
Thank
the
you.
work to be seen as respected and to be a place that people will come to. And if that's not there, then they won't trust the commission.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yes, I'm sorry. I call him Jerry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tell me this, you do a lot with data. How can you interlace your data research and regulations with affordable housing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, one of the things that I know that the Fair Rent Commission is interested in doing is, shedding light on what are the challenges that people are facing and how can we address them through the work of the commission and especially beyond. And again, I think a big part of this is looking at trends and prices, for example, trends in how expenses have gone up for landlords, what's real, what's not, and also looking at surrounding areas and what are the options for people as well, so that we can have a full picture on, again, what is fair and what isn't, given what we're seeing with the data. And in terms of how to address affordability, again, that's where I think you can look at, again, some of those trends and see like, okay, it looks like rents have gone up by 20%. Like that's a lot. Have people's wages gone up that much? Like, how can we address that in a more effective way? And how do we help all of our residents to be able to have housing by looking at some of those numbers and understanding, okay, what does that mean for the housing crisis and what we can do for it? And again, I think data can help us to just understand the facts. That's how I see it.
Have you ever had a situation where your data results conflicted with reality?
So typically, I think when that happens, there's something wrong with the data collection process. And so that's why it's so important to take a look at what you see and get alternative viewpoints and have a diversity of people who are part of looking at the data to know if this is kind of meeting that gut check or not. And if it isn't, then why is that, right? Because sometimes it's true that it's not correct, and there was a reason that it's not correct because of maybe how it was collected or who was represented in the data. Some people were excluded perhaps, and that led to the data not being fully complete, and that can be a problem. And so again, that's where I think having, again, more people looking at it and having that context to know, does this meet my gut check or not? And sometimes if it doesn't meet your gut check, that actually means, and you look into it and it's true, that's a really important finding, because it might be that a lot of us were thinking something was happening because maybe we were hearing from some loud voices that were not representative of the full population. And so we would want to know, okay, maybe we did hear some things from a few people, and those are real and important issues to address. They're limited to this set of people, not to necessarily everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Alderman Pittsburgh who's joined us this evening. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your consideration.
John Hutner? Yeah, the chairs are heavy.
I'd like to sit in this chair, is that possible?
Yeah, that is possible. If
Would you like us to move one?
Yeah, we can move one for you, if that's okay.
Thank you. Hi,
State your name and address for the record, please. Your name and address for the record.
my name is John Hittner, and I reside at 36 Birch Drive, Ward 26.
Say your last name again. I
John.
said it badly.
John Hittner. Hittner.
Even though it has unity.
It was originally Umlaut.
Okay, thank you. I
And so
apologize, I butchered your name. I guess I was trying to use pronunciation, but I guess that doesn't work in this case. You've been appointed to the Aging Commission and Aging Commission, the Homeless Advisory Commission. And that is an important committee, seeing that there's so many that are living on streets that don't have a place to live. What do you think your talents would be to bring to the table?
Talk all night about that. I have a history with the commission. I was the first staffer when it was seated.
Yes.
It evolved from an Aldermanic committee to a commission. And there was overlap for 2 years, and then I staffed the first 10 years of it as a staff member to what is now Community Services. After that, I volunteered and became chair of the commission. And that, in its statute, it does not require the mayor to name a chair. So we did it by election on a yearly basis. What can I bring? I think, and again, I said I could talk all night about this. The opposite of homelessness is home. And I think people sometimes forget that. And, with some of the problems, I've been asked, I thought I was fully retired. And I've been asked to come back by a variety of individuals. So I'm struck by, there are several things I'd like to do, but just to look at this current situation, where we have, it's like a merry-go-round. where we have a situation where we have encampments. And the city rightfully and legally rightfully, does what it has to do legally. However, we're going to visit the same thing next year. And maybe the following year, and maybe the following year. And it occurs to me that, while I don't disagree with what the city purports to do, I do have some questions about why don't we start looking at this from a different perspective? And that perspective might be just, this commission should be basically not advisory, but have the authority to sit down and look at what's happening, talk to all the parties involved, not just this city, but the consumers, the people that are out there, and to basically get a sense of what it is they need. Well, obviously they need a home, but evidently, because it keeps reoccurring, there are other issues. And what the commission could be doing is looking at those issues, calling in experts from a variety of perspectives, and getting at, what is it that we should be doing that we aren't doing? I don't think much attention has been directed in that direction. I think that if we can do that with an open, fair, transparent process, I think maybe we can avoid the next year and the next year and the next year. I don't have an answer, but I think we can get to an answer or answers. And I think that that's one thing that the commission could do, which I would be strongly supportive of. And if necessary, if I were asked to basically, be involved, to heavily involved in it, because I think it's extremely important. In the past, when I was with the staff of the commission, we developed 2 homeless plans. A plan to end homelessness, and a 10-year plan to end homelessness, and then a plan after that, a year after that, to essentially implement it. Well, obviously, we haven't eliminated homelessness yet. And I don't know if we ever will, but we certainly can get at some of the issues, I think, more intelligently than we have, dig deeper, and work for those priorities. And I think that's one of the problems, is that obviously snow removal and parking and a whole variety of other issues take priority. But I think, the city's gone in the right direction with affordable housing efforts, but it may not be enough given the economic situations and social situations in the city. So, as I say, I could talk all night about this, but I hope that addresses your question.
Yeah, and then one more question, if you don't mind. One of our biggest issues is with the larger homeless population is that when they come in by bus, they have fare. I don't know what they do. They probably go to one of those agencies, get whatever they need for their day, and then they're left here because they have no more money left. So they're left here to deal with. Our city deals with these issues every day because they don't have money to transport them back. And so we pick up a large portion of our neighbors who do not do the same as we do. I mean, we get people in from Bridgeport, from Waterbury, from Hartford, all different cities. And then they're left here with nowhere to transport them back. So that's another thing that we should address, in the homeless population. And I'll stop there because I know.
I've already responded to that.
Yes. Do you have an answer?
Well, we have been supporting out-of-towners for a long time. And unfortunately, we have a council of governments that developed a homeless plan that would address some of the issues that you raised, particularly for those communities outside. And they've never done anything with it. It's been sitting on a shelf for years. And again, the will isn't there, but there should be at least, if we are paying, out of taxpayer dollars, including, I'm a taxpayer, obviously, and I'm concerned about that. Why we shouldn't find some mechanism to tax through the council government or some other mechanism, monies to support those situations like you suggest, where they're coming from these other communities. I mean, there should be some accountability there, and we have the structures for it, but we don't have the will, and somehow we've got to get to that point. And you're right. I mean, I'm with you 100% on that. We've got to find a way to deal with it.
Thank you.
And yes, it is important.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Alderman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How are you this evening?
Good, thank you.
Could you tell me, what do you feel is your primary thought on homelessness? What is the primary cause of homelessness?
There again,
Not what you read in the newspaper or anything else. What's your thought?
well, homelessness is, we had a pretty good year in here. If you look at cities like New York or San Francisco, Phoenix, LA, I mean, they have problems with logistical levels that I don't think they ever solved. They're impossible. It's an impossibility, but we have the ability to deal with our little part of the world here, because we were not talking about thousands of people. And I think that from my perspective, I believe that everyone should have some legitimate level of shelter, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their income level, regardless of their race or their gender. It makes no difference. Everyone should, and that's my bottom line, is that everyone should have that availability. And if it means changing the way we do business, well, amen. If that's what it means. And I from my perspective, I would love to see, when I was working here with homeless issues, I went home at night. If I had gotten somebody in a shelter off the street, or gotten somebody out of a shelter into a better living situation, I felt good. So I think that, to me, is really the bottom line in terms of how I basically feel about homeless.
Okay, now tell me your thought, one or two, on how you reduce homelessness.
I wish I had a magic wand to say that. Given the fact that it's not a major priority nationally, statewide, or locally, the only realistic ways that we can get about doing it is chipping away at it in ways that hopefully have some meaning, and then in fact reduce the numbers. There are forces out there that basically we don't have a lot of control over the dumping issue. it used to be the state used to dump. And when there have been upheavals, including New Haven, in terms of the numbers of homeless people, it's been, when the state emptied out all their, this was the Reagan years, the state emptied out their state institutions and put people on the street that never should have been put on the street. And it's those kinds of, or you know, a recession or a war with veterans coming back that you know, have issues that aren't being dealt with. So we have, there are a variety of situations, and that's the bottom line, I think, is that people don't recognize that people come to homelessness for a whole variety of different reasons. And we don't talk much about evictions. But anyway, when the economy goes bad, then you see some of the changes in terms of numbers. And there are relationships there. Some of which, you know, we have a little maybe control over, but not a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions?
I have a comment, Madam Chair. John, our president of the board has asked me to, as the automatic slot, to join the Homeless Advisory Commission. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to working.
Oh, fantastic. You know, I'm glad because in the past we've had sometimes we have two automatic slots. I'm speaking from my former, there are two automatic slots, and one belongs to a minority party, and so we've generally had one member, and that's been in many cases been excellent. We've had some very excellent that have gotten involved in the activities of the commission, and I welcome that. I really welcome that, and I guess ultimately you would then become part of the relationship to the board, and maybe have to defend some of the actions of the commission.
I'm looking forward to working.
Good.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you. In reference to what I have that you have shared with us, and also the director of the homeless department, the coordinator of homelessness, Velma George, she indicates that, you know, you've been off the commission for over 2 years, and that she'd like to see you again on that commission. And also you indicate that you've worked with the city of New Haven in community services administration, and that you've also had to deal with the policies regarding homeless, and that you've been a liaison to the community, and you've also done consumer mediation. And that's all really good. And I understand that you want another chance to come back into the commission after 2 years. There may be some things that you've seen. And my question stems around, you know, in New Haven, the Board of Alders has approved the aggregate housing because we'd like to make sure about affordable housing and more housing for and the state of Connecticut in its literature reveals to us that they want to see and consumed and collaborative effort on the part of all those that are addressing homelessness about eradication. And that word is in our vocabulary, in our literature, and communicated that we'd like to see that happen. And my question is, how do you see now, with all the experience that you've had, leaving the commission and now coming back to a New Haven that is proactive regarding homelessness, that has changed some of the laws in reference to working with residents and with citizens who are going out there? They have no, they're not working in the field. they're just out there helping the homeless. Maybe they might give them something to eat. Maybe they might give them a blanket. Maybe they might give them a piece of clothing, or even just talk with them. How do you see New Haven and the commission working at seeing something that could have, maybe I will use in hopefulness the word eradication, because we're using it throughout all of our language in terms of the homelessness goals of the state. How do you see your role now if you were given the opportunity to return to the commission?
Well, it depends on the role that the commission would be as well. So that's kind of a two-step situation. But I basically staffed the development of two plans that were designed to eliminate homelessness in New Haven. So I spent a lot of time and effort with that. We had broad community support from a whole variety of people, some not even related directly to homelessness, that were involved in those processes. We had forums. We had forums not only in shelters on the green, but also in professional organizations. And we basically covered the waterfront. So I don't have a problem with the word eradicate, but I would be very cautionary in terms of some of those pieces of the puzzle being able to be put together so that we can get there. I think as a goal, I have no problems endorsing it. I think we all should. But getting there is that's the challenge. And again, that depends upon broadness of community support, and communities come together and prioritize it. Hopefully we can eradicate.
Thank you. Hamilton.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
John, I don't like.
Okay, John. Homelessness, compilation of things. Your homeless plan is in that plan that was created by your group. Is there a portion of that plan that addresses meeting folks where they are? When I say where they are, different things make people homeless. Mental disease, substance abuse, economics, job loss, a compilation of things. In this homeless plan that was created by your group, did they address any of those parts, like the different pieces that contribute to homelessness? Because to address the problem, we have to deal with all the different little parts, right? So I'm hoping in this homeless plan that was created, maybe y'all need to, if confirmed, reconfirmed, I should say, dust that off and start putting some parts together, like, meeting people where they are. Some people are homeless and they don't want to be in a confined housing situation, So it's important that we address all parts of what make a person homeless, what contributes to a person being homeless, So for me, I would say if we confirm you, I would suggest that maybe they can revamp the homeless plan to eradicate homelessness and start putting some parts of that puzzle together that will help to contribute to people being housed again.
I couldn't agree more. Any approach to dealing with an individual or family that's homeless should deal with the entire situation. And at that point in time, this goes back, like 20 years or so. what we did and didn't do then wasn't really focused there, although we did talk about bringing services together, different kinds of services together, but not necessarily in a home setting. But your point's well taken, and I think that certainly I would advocate that. I think that as I grow older, I don't want to go into assisted living.
Right.
And I know,
You and I both.
yeah. And so, I'm there personally, but your point's well taken, and I think that, I would, if confirmed, I certainly would make that part of the priority that we might be dealing with.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Alder Guzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the responses given to all our colleagues' questions and comments. I just had one quick question. So recently, you brought up some of the plans that, during your time on the commission, you and others helped develop. And so now recently, about a couple months ago, our board, the city passed a plan to designate funds from American Rescue Plan specifically allocated for homelessness. And that breakdown included a majority of those funds going to developing affordable housing, and then a bit going to developing some more shelter beds, which recently, because of the pandemic, have kind of gone down. So I'm just wondering, don't want to, have you delve necessarily into the nitty gritty of the plan and the specifics, but just based off of those numbers alone, do you have any thoughts on that, whether the city should have devoted everything to just developing affordable rental housing, or if struck a good balance, or because I think that's one of the plans that I imagine the Homeless Advisory Commission and other groups will sort of keep an eye on as we go along through the duration of the plan, which is I think about a decade. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about that and how that maybe differs from some of the plans that you came up with.
I haven't read it, so I would refrain from commenting on it specifically, but if I had, I would certainly do so. I would have to read it and see how what it says, and look at the reality of what our situation is in terms of how people are housed or not housed. I know we lost a shelter, which we were supportive of for years, and they were the shelter of last resort, and they basically anybody, there were no restrictions in terms of admittance, and I think the community really misses that, or that shelter, on Grand, it was in a Grand and I think and the plans that we've done basically calculated that those shelter beds into the number of shelter beds we had in New Haven. With that gone, that poses a whole new set of issues that the city evidently, from what I've read, has used warming centers, but obviously that doesn't do or anywhere near dealing with the issues that an individual or a family, particularly as well, might have, because they're not designed to do that. And so we've created a vacuum there that somehow we have to compensate for in some way. Now, I don't know. Again, I haven't read it, so I can't comment on it.
But I appreciate the answer, and hopefully, if you end up being confirmed, I think it's a great opportunity for you and the other members of the Homeless Advisory Commission to really think about that. You bringing your years of experience in working in this area, I think would be pretty helpful. So thank you for your answer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It
Thank
was
you.
very helpful learning all this information we didn't know.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Always think home.
the 2-year plan, perhaps Alan, the staff can share it with us.
okay.
That was around 2006. There's also a 5-year plan that was constructed more recently. And everything is under, through you, Madam Chair, it's comprehensive, it's well written. All we have to do is just now make it. 2 documents that we really give a great guidance.
Thank you. Staff, would you, make sure that we get copies of that, those reports? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Emily Sigmund? Hello. Your name and address for the record, please.
Emily Sigmund, 459 Dixwell Avenue.
Okay. And you're being appointed to the Board of Parks Commissions. And tell me why you want to sit on the Board of Parks.
Well, I hear the place pretty good.
They don't care. You won't get rich on that.
I guess I should go.
There may be some perks, maybe you get a T-shirt or something. You know, but, nothing that's gonna make you rich. But, the Parks Commission is a very important, integral part of our city. As you know, we have, I can't say the number of parks because I don't remember the total. However, they're in some of them are in very dire need. And some of them have, over the years, because a lot of time and attention hasn't been put to our parks, haven't been used to their full capacity. So I'm looking for, I don't know if it was the aging population of the Parks Commission or new blood is always good, because every time you bring someone new in, there are new perspectives, new ideas, new philosophies that run around that can help. And I think I saw that you have forestry in your background, so that's great for the East Rock and I guess West Rock too as well, because there's a lot of hiking trails up in those areas. So that's great. So tell us why you think that you would be a great fit for that commission.
Well, just to answer your first question a little bit more fully about why I would want to be on the commission in the first place. I think parks are really important. I think they're important places. Like, we know that they're good for your physical health and your mental health, and they're these. We saw especially during the pandemic that having really quality outdoor places to gather is really important. And I think that our parks are some of the most joyous places in the city. Like, I go by like Scandalberry Park on my daily commute, and it's just so wonderful to see people playing basketball and having a picnic, and in the skate park and playing pickleball, and it's just, it's so important for, I think, just the health of our communities. And in aggregate, they're even if it's not West Rock or East Rock, even if it's just a little pocket park in a neighborhood, it's great for wildlife. It's great for our air quality. It helps us, be more resilient to different things that might happen with climate change if we have, green spaces that can, for example, absorb storm water and things like that. So I guess that's the primary reason why I would want to join the commission, is because I think the parks are important, and I would, like to be in a position where I could help make decisions about how we can enhance the parks that we already have and maybe even create more parks. So I think that there's pretty big disparity in terms of park access in different neighborhoods. So I think shifting that would be really great. In terms of what I bring, as you mentioned, I have a background in forestry, and my background in forestry is, as forestry things go, like pretty mixed. So I do have a background in like technical forestry, like how do you manage forests for timber production and things like that, which is not exactly what we would be doing in our parks. But I have also a really strong background in something called agroforestry. So kind of looking at how you can use ecology and forest dynamics to think about other ways of producing food, and also kind of creating landscapes that blur the line between forest and farm and park and things like that. So I think the primary thing I would bring to the commission is just an ability to see like, possibilities of how we can reimagine these like public outdoor spaces. And I am really excited about potentially like doing more food cultivation in public spaces, primarily in the form of perennial foods like fruit trees and nut trees and berry bushes and things like that. I'm really into maple syrup production, which is something I've been doing with New Haven trees for a few years. So I would love, proposals come to the commission that are excited about that, to be someone on that commission that's really supportive and can speak to the benefits of that. I'm also though like very concerned about urban toxicity, and so I'm currently doing research on how even just whether it's that you're eating food that's grown in a city, or even just like being in an outdoor public space, how does that potentially expose you to different environmental toxins, particularly for kids? So that's kind of where I'm like an academic, really. So that's where my research is tracking, is into like, how do you understand the environmental toxicity risks, and how do you mitigate them is the more important thing, right? Like, we don't want to just be like, oh, it's dangerous, so no kids in the park, but rather like, how do we actually make this safe for people to play in, to grow food in, to harvest from, and together. So I feel like I've been talking for a long time, so maybe I should stop.
Any questions from the committee? Yes, Alder Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, ma'am. Edward Park is my park.
Okay.
All right, because that's in our community.
Yeah.
For me, my concern is about, first and foremost, cleanliness of our parks, right? Because everybody uses our parks for just to get out in the open space, but I've noticed that the upkeep of our parks have kind of gone down. Now, being on this park commission, if appointed, I would expect you to make sure we stand up and, enforce stepping up cleanliness and good upkeep to playgrounds, play spaces for kids, and usable spaces for adults. You know what I mean? I think for me, those are some of the key things that I want to see change in our parks that has kind of gone a little bit to the wayside, like right now. So I am hoping that if you're appointed, it would be part of the concentration to make sure our parks come up in quality of product, so to speak. You know what I mean? Nice, comfortable, usable, clean. People not kicking stuff out of the way just to walk through, a trail, stuff like that. That's my concern when it comes to parks. So hopefully you might put that in your thoughts. Something that we'd like to see happen.
I think it's a really valid concern, and a concern I share as well. Actually, when I make the maple syrup, if I'm not saying anything too weird here, I usually go around like my neighborhood parks and I pick up like the little like glass alcohol nip bottles and I sterilize them. Just as a way of like, because it drives me nuts just seeing all this trash and, I want to find some way of using it. I mean, that's like a tiny little drop in the bucket, but I think that there could be, I see sort of like two complementary paths to dealing with the issue of just upkeep in the parks. And one is sort of the institutional path of looking at like what resources are getting deployed at a city systemic level to upkeep parks. Are those resources equally distributed across different parks? Are they sufficient? And if not, like how might they be made more sufficient? And just kind of, looking at that. I'll be honest, I don't know how all of that works currently, but learning about that would be something that would be part of this position and something that I could definitely get my hands into. I think the other pathway is looking at community involvement in park stewardship, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. I think when people feel a sense of ownership of a park or about an outdoor space, a garden, like people are more likely to take care of it themselves. They're also more likely to step up and talk to people when they see something going on, and just in general, like I feel like you can kind of, there's a feeling to a place when it's cared for, and when you feel that, you might be a little bit less likely to throw your garbage in it. And so when I was a graduate student at the School of the Environment at Yale, I started something called the Yale Community Forest Garden. Well, I don't want to take full credit for it. Another amazing person named Emma actually like came up with the whole idea, and then I was the first steward, so I actually brought the forest garden into physical incarnation. And the idea with that garden was it was number one, like every species in it was edible or medicinal, but it was set up in a way that it could be largely self-sustaining and kind of in communication with different ecological principles of succession and things like that. And for me, the most important thing was that I didn't want to be like going in there and just doing a bunch of work by myself. For one thing, that would be too much work. And for another thing, it felt like if it was this very new kind of landscaping feature, and Yale was very skeptical about it and things like that. And I felt like there needed to be a sense of community ownership in order for this garden to thrive and to be accepted by the community and to be cared for by the community. And so every single thing that happened in that garden took place as a public community workshop that was open to the Yale community, that was open to the Haven community, that was open to various like groups across Connecticut that might be interested in those kinds of things. And so it was a learning process of like, okay, come to the forest garden today and learn about how to build soil. Come to the forest garden today and learn about rain catchment. Come to the forest garden today and learn about how to grow edible mushrooms or how to plant perennial herbs or things like that. And I was in that position for 5 years, and I think that approach was really successful in terms of making it something that now feels like it's very much a part of the School of the Environment and something that people really care about, and kind of just like, I sometimes would kind of just hide in the garden and wait and see and just kind of see how different people were coming back and engaging with the space. And so I think trying to bring some of that energy onto the Parks Commission and into New Haven is something that I'd be interested in doing, and supporting people that are doing that already. There are lots and lots of people who are friends of different parks who are organizing to have park cleanup days and park stewardship days, and just making sure that those groups and those people have the resources and the support and the love that they need to keep doing the great work that they're doing, and to expand that into places that don't currently have as much stewardship as they could have.
Any further questions? Alder Interims and then Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we talked a lot.
Yeah, I talked a lot.
It was a two-way. One of the things you talked about a great deal is use of parks. And we also have someone that we'll be interviewing today on Commission on Aging. I got a long introduction to my question. So in my ward, Quinnipiac Meadows, about 20% of my voters are seniors. And one of the complaints I've heard a lot is East Rock Park being closed because they like to go up to the top and enjoy the sun and the breeze. What kind of things do you think you can do to convince the commission to reopen the park, the access to the top of the park?
Oh,
Because
gosh.
it's a city park and it's just closed to everyone until Sunday.
Yeah. So just to clarify your question, are you talking about reopening the road that goes
Yes.
up into the park? Gosh, I'm gonna have a hot take here.
I have a tough time
Yeah.
walking that distance, so
Yeah.
they need to be able to drive.
Yeah, I hear that, and I hear the need for accessibility in parks in general, not just for seniors, but for folks who might be using wheelchairs or other walking devices or things like that. You know, in the I'm part of a community green space group in a city lot behind our house. And you know, something that I would really love to be able to do is actually put like a path there that is, you know, wheelchair accessible and have some garden beds that are really raised up high so that people can access them. I think access and inclusivity in the parks across age and ability and all kinds of other things is really important. I'm torn because, you know, I, as a younger, able-bodied person, absolutely adore the fact that that road has been closed. I think it's been so wonderful to not have cars in that space and to be able to go to something that now feels like an oasis in a way that it always felt a little bit dangerous before because you're constantly, the trails kind of cut across the road and, you know, you have the dog or this or that and the other thing, you know, those cars would really like speed through there. So, you know, I don't want to go on record and say, you know, here's my 10-point plan for opening the road back up because I think it's a thorny question. Yeah, but I do hear the need to, you know, make these public spaces inclusive and available to everyone. So I don't have a clear answer on that right now. It's something I would really have to sit and think about and ask people about and think about like how we might be able to meet multiple needs in a way that doesn't exclude anybody. So sorry if that was anticlimactic or not exactly what you wanted to hear, but that's, yeah, I'd have to sit on it a bit more.
I don't expect you to give the perfect answer.
Yeah.
You know, because then we're out of our jurisdiction area. But just to get an idea of your thought process, how you would approach it is all I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if there's like another way to like make that accessible that doesn't involve cars.
Golf course.
Yeah, or you know, or maybe like certain days a week there's like a, you know, a shuttle or something like that. I don't know. In general, I tend to think about ways that our city can be more friendly to forms of transportation that are not cars, because I think cars have a pretty significant impact on, you know, our public health and our built environment. So, yeah, it's a big question. Lots to think about.
Yeah, there's your first challenge for me.
Yeah.
Have you been to any of the commission meetings so far?
No.
Go ahead. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for all the information that you sent us. It clearly shows that you care about the commission and the way that you invested time to get us all this information and to literally document important things about your life, which leads me to consider, why are you pursuing a commission when you've already made so much contributions, even in literature, and even as a lecturer and a teacher of students, giving forth your expertise. Now, not having to answer that question, I am concerned, I have a big concern, and this is that, for example, in my ward, I have Ann Street, Truman Street, Arch Street, Redfield Street, Washington Street, Davenport, and Columbus Avenue. And in all these streets, we have either small spaces or parks. And for years in our city, we have been talking about beautification, and we have important resources like New Haven Urban Resources Initiative, the New Haven Land Trust. And we have a lot of it, people that have put in their hands and worked from both sides. We have boards that of individuals and volunteers from the schools that have come into our parks and have worked. And they've done great things together. And we have, as I'm not going to go into it, either my colleagues have covered and asked you questions about maintenance and how to use the green spaces. What I am concerned, however, is on the education piece. And how could the commission, how is it that in so many years that we haven't built a group of children that have become foresters in the city? And that is where I'd like to bring to you, being who you are, the lecturer, the teacher, the writer, the researcher. How can we accomplish that? Because we are in a city, we have a climate director that we don't have. We're not producing the employers and the directors and the individuals who could take this work on. So I read that.
Yeah. I do think if I were to be a part of this commission, I have a hunch there could be some collaboration with the climate director. But I guess I see sort of, and I guess this is an opportunity for education for me too, on what exactly the role of the commission is. I had been interpreting the role of the commission as kind of a place where different initiatives, kind of come and present, things that they would like to be, approved or done or things like that. And then the commission kind of talks about that and, allocates approvals as they're able to come to as a group. In terms of creating new initiatives, is that something that typically happens on the commission? The commission?
No.
Okay.
Requests for proposals are submitted to the Parks Commission.
That's what I thought. Okay. So in that case, I think that in this particular role, the job would be to first of all be really encouraging and supportive of those proposals that are coming in that align with those bigger goals of community education and building ecological literacy and thinking about the next generation. And then I think, in my capacity as, a citizen, I am also on the community advisory board for the New Haven Food Policy Division, trying to work with my neighbors and my friends and my colleagues to think about ways that some of the great things that you mentioned could become more of a reality.
As we often talk about food, right?
Yeah.
In our green spaces, but we don't talk about the health, the physical health, or the hard data that is necessary to demonstrate and to prove that our parks are important and that we don't want to lose them, as you've shared also that you're going to become a strong advocate to protect these green spaces from remaining. And that's very significant because we have physical health, fun, recreation, play. All these things are produced with our green spaces, but there's nothing, again, to show the hard data so that we can preserve those spaces which then could be easily moved into more space for housing or for other things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and I think certainly, if I were to be a part of this commission, I would be a strong voice, against any kind of measure that would, get rid of existing park space or, and even like and again, I have a lot to learn, but, I look, at some of the development that's happening in my neighborhood in New Hallville, and it's great, and we just heard a great conversation about affordable housing and homelessness and things like that. So there's some really tricky, complicated questions. But sometimes I do wonder, like I look at certain things and I'm like, wow, that would have been a great park. Now it's like, it's a lot of housing, and there's no public space at all. So maybe there's a role in some of these discussions around like, okay, we're having a big development. We know we need a bunch more units of housing. Hopefully they're, affordable and constructed in a sustainable way. Is there a way in some of these like big new developments that we can ask developers to include public park space as part of that, so that it doesn't just become this closed, gated, private, market rate housing, and I don't know exactly where the boundaries are in terms of what the Parks Commission is voting on or not, but certainly when given the opportunity to vote on maintaining, enhancing, creating more park space, I very much vote in favor of all of those things.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? Yes, Dr. Ficklen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gulf Street Park is my park. Same way Edgewood Park.
I love how everyone's like, this is my part.
You heard the streets. And Jerry. And I hold office hours in the park. So I sat in the 2 hours today in the park to observe many of the dynamics that you've heard universally. Also, as you know, we have the garden right adjacent, which kind of, I think, builds that synergy between your vision and what we're already doing in some ways. My comment to you is, in older Hamilton started off with this, and I think you've sensed how serious we view our parks, but also the sense of dire straits that some of us seem to still be in. So it's unusual for us to, I think, to share so much of our burdens on people that are wanting to give. But I think you understand the political hot topic that this is. So if you do become a commissioner, you will perhaps perceive more pressure, more insight, more concern. And I think that's our obligation to advise people that want to join the commission, whether they're joining a dormant commission, a non-parking commission, an active commission, but we rarely, I think, have shared as much of the political dynamics with the future, with the people that want to become commissioners as we have today. But I think that's a sign of the times, our interest, our concern, and our really appreciation for your offering up your skill set, as Alder Rodriguez has indicated, for everyone's community collaboration benefit.
Well, thanks for the heads up.
Warning. You've been alert.
But I think if you're gonna be a part of something and you're gonna show up to a meeting every month, it's great if it's like things where things are really happening and people have an investment in the outcome. And I think it's like, just like you said, it speaks to how important these spaces are for people. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and it makes it a really complicated, personal thing to tread thoughtfully on. And yeah, I think it sounds like an interesting challenge and a place where hopefully, I would have something to contribute. And yeah, I appreciate you all taking the time to get to know me and ask me questions and read all the stuff I sent and let me know kind of, what's important to you and what's important to the commission as a whole.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next person is Adam Waters. You were halfway through.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no worries. Thank you. I'm
I like when our committee is engaged in wanting to learn more information about the people because it's key. Because they understand what we feel and we hope that they will bring that to the commission as well as they serve on it. And first of all, state your name and address for the record.
yeah, Adam Waters, 53 Canner Street in Ward 10.
Okay. And I hate to say this, but the Board of Zoning is a very important committee.
I've heard that one, yeah.
Okay, and so it's an important commission that if people do not attend meetings, then they do not have a voice and they can't make calls that need to be made because they don't have quorum. And so it sometimes has to be continued because they don't have quorum. So that's why it's so key to other commissions. Some of them are quorum has an issue, but most of all, the city plan, the Parks Commission, the Board of Zoning, most of those commissions deal with projects that if you don't approve them in a matter of certainty, they don't get done on time. So, and we don't want that to be a cost to the consumer as well. So
Absolutely.
I'm asking, how much do you know about the Board of Zoning? And have you seen any meetings? Have you gone to any meetings?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. So I have not been to a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, but I have followed the Board of Zoning Appeals work in the independent and other sources, and understand the importance of the BZA and the importance of the work that it does in approving zoning variances, and also take your point about the importance of the good attendance on the committee. And so recognize that, if I am appointed and confirmed, I would be confirmed as alternate. But, my intention in being potentially confirmed as an alternate to the BZA is to take that extremely seriously and to see my responsibility as being as engaged as I can be and as engaged as the commission needs me to be, including attending all of the meetings, even if I don't need to, actually be sitting on the commission as a voting member on that day, and certainly taking the opportunity to get as up to speed as possible with what the BZA is working on.
I do know that the BZA does offer some training.
Yes.
So you will get that. And I know a colleague of mine who was an alternate and she is now chair. So having good attendance and knowing the rules and engaging yourself, making yourself available if you can. Just because you're an alternate doesn't mean you can't sit in and listen, because there may be things that you'll pick up on and they'll be important for you to key the next time around. You have to vote on something. So that's all I want to make sure is that you understand the key component of this is critical to the city's function.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate even being considered for a alternate position on the BZA, recognizing how important the commission is. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? Oh, you get off
I
easy.
just have
Yes.
Oh yeah, please.
I only have one comment. There's a lot of development going on in the city, and there are a lot of things that are being considered regarding variances and changes. So that it really is important that you're an alternate, but that's just as significant. And it does help when an alder such as myself am able to speak with the commissioners and share concerns that I may have and that commissioner can listen and at least could be sensitive and hear and take those things in consideration when making changes or decisions. I thank you for your interest in this board, but it's exceptionally important.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, and I want to say that, as you all have said, right, part of the process of coming onto such an important board is learning from as many people as possible about the work that the board does, about the zoning code, right? And so I would welcome the opportunity to speak with any member of the Board of Alders about that, and to be available as much as possible for conversation about that, and then certainly with the other members of the board as well.
And I would encourage you to also become a fit, knowledgeable Boston planning also.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have, I'm going to propose, no, I don't have to propose a question. I actually do. Well, because I can't decide if you all want to come up individually or do you want to come up as a group for the two houses?
As a group.
Yeah, might as well, they're the only ones left here.
We have Crystal Gooding, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We have Edith Rose, Antoinette Torp, okay, and Charles, no, not Charles, Charles Warner?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so you
Junior,
guys are all
Junior,
here. I'm
Junior.
sorry. I'm sorry. Okay,
And Malcolm Welfare.
okay, you're at the end.
Yes,
All right,
number
got it.
17, I believe.
Yep. Thank
Malcolm
you.
is a reappointment.
It is a reappointment. Before we go on, I need you all to say your name and address for the record, please. Who wants to go first?
Anthony Thorpe, 122 Lane Street, Hamden, Connecticut.
Charles Warner Jr., 284 Grandview Avenue, Hamden, Connecticut.
Edith Wolf, 1010 Willie Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut. Crystal Gooding, 26 Woodland Street, New Haven, Connecticut.
Malcolm Welfare, 39 Elmwood Road, New Haven, Connecticut.
Thank you all. And I know that, don't be nervous because we're not going to bite. We want you to feel at home and you know, I know that Alder Jeanette Morrison has sent a letter acknowledging everyone on the commission. And unfortunately, she was not able to attend the meeting tonight in person, but she did send us a letter and saying that each one of you are being recommended to the commission, and she wholeheartedly supports that effort. And I know that the Q House is her baby, and how she always says, and she worked very hard to get it to the point that it is now. And in order for any big organization like that to continue, it does need appointments to the commission and to, well, it's not a commission, it's a advisory board. But it is a committee, and you all are members of that committee. So being members of that committee, you get to voice your concerns if you see something that's not working. It's nonprofits have board of directors, and each one of them is responsible for the oversight of the group, the organization. So that's basically what you are, not financially, but if something's not working, you should be able to talk to the people and ask them if something is not accurate. If something's not working, let's do something else that it will work. Because you guys are the functioning board that see things and you hear things, so you will know things that are going on that we may not know. And so it's important that each one of you have a voice and you come to meetings. And I'm sorry I'm singling you out, but the reason, and I will, Malcolm, they said that your attendance record was 59%. So tell me, is it the time of day? not working for you on the day they need? I want to know what your issue is with it.
Well, I am a teacher, so
Okay.
some nights I have responsibilities where I am at school facilitating things. I'm also a coach at the school, so I'm not a 9 to 5, regular teacher, 8 to 3 teacher. I sometimes work after school. I also have a daughter who is at the time where I was appointed to the board is very young. She is a little bit older now. She's 5 years old, so a lot of time and attention that is given to her, taken there. But other than that, I am at the Q House when there's not meetings being attended. I attend programs. I help facilitate programs. I also help to bring my daughter to the Q House so that way she can experience programming and I can experience that through the parent lens. And I also take my time to talk to the community and talk to those who attend the Q House as well, those who are past students and students and families who I currently interact with and mentor as well. So there's a lot of time that's taken outside of the meeting time in order to facilitate Q House work and to listen to the community.
Well, I know the woman that was here earlier says data, but data doesn't always tell you everything. And so that's why we ask you to come in to tell us, because lots of times it's the time of the meeting, or it's the day of the week, or you're incapacitated, you don't have a car, you can't get to the meeting. So whatever the case may be, we want to know, and we want to be able to help you to facilitate that discussion. So obviously, since you're there almost every day, so I guess I would talk to whoever does your attendance and possibly have them work around, because if you're there every day, you've already maxed out your 90%, 99%, so.
But not every day, but Tuesdays, weekends, Thursdays, and also on, well, I said weekends already, Saturdays. So anytime we have a special program, I'm there as well.
Yeah, so they should take into account all those as well, including, because, sometimes people get sick and they have to step away for a little bit. And we understand that, but we want to know if there's something we can do to help you. Because, well, I don't like that director. I want him gone. And that's the reason why I'm not, going. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that we need to hear from you. So, thank you. I said enough. I'll let others speak. Anyone else? Yes, Alderman Rodriguez.
Okay, I understand that you are supportive and helpful in terms of the program and the day-to-day activities, but an advisory board is extremely significant, especially to the Dixville Community Center.
Absolutely.
I would say that this board is essential for the livelihood of this center. It's the first board that has taken on this charge after over 10 years of hard work. And so are you available when they're making important decisions that you would need to vote on? And I truly understand you're giving 100%. And that's wonderful to have you in the active. But you must understand also your presence in this board in terms of making decisions that could impact the work that's being done in that building.
Absolutely.
So are you available, and are you available when they need you in terms of any feedback, any information, should you not be able to attend all these meetings for the good causes that you present?
Absolutely. Some of the ways that I try to make sure that I am staying abreast of what's going on is checking in with other members of the programming committee, checking in with other members of the general body committee. A lot of my input goes into what happens with the programming on the programming committee. So suggestions that I have and that I see things that are happening at the Q House, those things go into what happens with the programming committee. I also meet with the programming manager, Yakita, and stay very close with her to make sure that any decisions that are happening at the building level are also understood at the board level. And then I also bring my observations to the board, whether I'm there or when I'm not. So I will text Alder Morrison, or I will write an email to Alder Morrison to let her know if I have an observation or opinion, or if there's something that needs my feedback. But I am very vocal on the board. I try to involve myself when it comes to the impact that facilities may have on the community and the access level. That's been my most recent thing that I've been talking about. But I do feel that even though I may not be physically present in the moment, I still keep myself abreast of what's going on information-wise, and I make myself very available to give those opinions and to be vocal for the board to serve.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Yes, Alder Guzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that you brought up access, just because I think even with any great program or youth center, I think there's always ways you can get better at, being accessible to people. And that's not to say the kiosk isn't accessible, but I'm saying I appreciate that you brought that up as something that, if confirmed, you and the other members of the advisory board will continue to, work through that and other issues that may come up. This isn't much of a question, more of a comment, and just really saying thank you all for serving on this important advisory board. As colleagues have already mentioned, this is a big project, not just for individuals in our community, but for neighborhoods. And I was kind of just flipping through all these papers really just now over these past few minutes because I'm just so amazed, and I think it's the beauty of being on this committee is really seeing the resumes, really seeing the work that people have put in and want to continue giving back to their community beyond what's just on the paper. And so I think I just want to take the time to thank you all, and hopefully confirmed continue the work that you all are doing, and I think it's all really needed. And since you've all waited here till now, there's a bunch of other folks that are really passionate about their community, and you all are a great group of people that I think hopefully will continue the work that you're all doing, either here at the kiosk, outside the kiosk, everywhere here in New Haven. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Oh, go ahead, Alder Antones.
My question is for Mr. Warner. Would it be for us for another committee or board not long ago?
No, not recently. I have presented before the Historic Preservation Committee. It was a few years ago.
Maybe it's sooner.
Well, maybe I've been before you in other places.
It could have been. Thank you.
Chance was for Strike that from the record.
It's already on the record.
Strike that from the record.
It's already in the record.
Any further questions? Yes, Alder in behind me? Alder,
Had you finished your
Yes,
question?
yes.
okay. Did you go over it?
No. I went once before.
Yeah, the other people
And then
haven't
Alder
spoken,
Guzman.
and you haven't spoken.
I'm not going to find what my lips are sealed.
Alder Morrison and then Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair Santana. Good evening, folks. Thank you for your patience. Mr. Welcome, you're being reappointed. These folks are now being appointed.
Awesome.
So, if confirmed, folks, are you ready to attend meetings and do the work? Continue?
We'll continue to work because we already have, and most of us have already been active in advising on the board, and
Okay.
being active with running the Q-House. So yes, we're ready to continue.
Excellent. Continue, leadership, well, as a leader, I'll say, confirmed. All right, cool, thank you.
Alder Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
He's feeling his lips, he's not talking, he's in trouble.
The Dixon Community Center, again, has a serious charge in that you are serving the entire city. It's not just the Dixville area anymore. And there's been a growing population, especially in the Latino community. And in terms of being advisory, how are you working to bring in that crowd that could be being serviced and benefiting and also helping in the Dixville Community Center? And I also understand that we have some youth centers that are in the neighbors, but the charge is that the Dixville Community Center has this charge. Whether we have small areas of youth recreation in other neighborhoods, the fact remains that you're the entity. You're the main. You know how we have entity, like we have Yale New Haven, right? But then we have Hill Hall Center. You're Yale New Haven when it comes to youth. And I'm proud to say that. I would really love to see so much greatness that's already here be dispersed out into our communities. And how are you doing engagement and how are you doing it to bring in the communities that need to be a part of it? And maybe they are already, so.
Certainly, the programming is diverse. I don't look at the Q House as just a youth center. It also houses now Cornell Scott Health Center, library, Stetson Library Branch, also a senior center. So really, it's a sum total of exactly what you're saying, our entire community. And so traditionally, the Q House, historically, I'll say, was targeted and geared to the Dixville community and definitely towards the African American population that was historically relegated to the Dixville area. However, we know that many of the things that service African Americans, the need of African Americans will also meet the needs of any population. Anybody can benefit from recreation, from youth development programming, from learning new skills like cooking and basketball and elderly services. So I would say that it's just incumbent upon us to make sure that while we're programming, that we are mindful of the diverse population, not only in the Dixville area, but the city of New Haven, as you say, it serves all of us. So in the way that Malcolm and I sit on the programming committee and are in constant contact about developing programs, we'll definitely make sure that we are inclusive in our advising on programs.
Because the internet is good, right?
Yes.
But how do you create public awareness? There's a lot of mothers that are not going there.
Yes.
And especially English limited. And while I understand the Hill Hall Center and all those other facilities are exposed in somehow to this community, I'm thinking more around the youth piece because there's so many youth. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. In line with that, I also just began a GED program at the Q House. One of the things that I work at adult ed, and one of the things that I realized as I was visiting and talking to people is they did not have an adult ed. They didn't have a GED program. And as we all know, that we have a large community of people that are uneducated, that do not have the GED high school diploma. I was talking to Yakita Robinson, and all of a sudden it was like, let's do it. So now we're adult ed is in partnership with GED. And in doing so, we have a lot of people of color at adult ed. And so we are opening up to anyone. We are putting out flyers, like you said, the internet, and just saying, we have classes now within your community. So you don't have to go all the way over to the boulevard. We're bringing it to you at the Q House. So anyone is eligible. And a couple of our counselors that have been going over there are Latino, and they love it. They love it. They want to start going to line dancing and to bring their.
So you're doing awareness for the English limited?
Yes. So we're starting to kind of develop that partnership with the Q House to start working more on that community relationship.
Thank you.
In addition to our active, our philosophy and action in our programming, we also have mechanics behind that as well. So I've also worked with our communications committee. We've been very intentional about making sure that the sites that are around our schools are prepared to inform families about LEAP, which also includes our Fairhaven families, or our East Rock families, as well as our families that are in the Kimberly Avenue area, the hill section. So we have a very intentional way about going to the families and making sure that they're informed through the LEAP sites. So that's one thing that we've worked on with the key.
Thank you, because one of the things I'm doing in my ward is that I'm trying to make our youth initiative programs sustainable. And you're the artery, you're the veins. If I tell you, you're the heart, the pulse. So I'm trying to connect them to the Dixon Community Center. And we have to work on that together. So I thank you, but that's really one of my goals.
And as a deacon from Dixwell Avenue Congregational Church, which you know is right next door to the Q House, we're now working on a partnership with them in several areas. Actually, the Q House, what's the summer program that's coming up? They're going to be using our church to do some of their training programs because they've grown. I guess they have so many students now that they're training that they can't do it all at the Q House. So they're going to expand into the church. That way they don't have to bus the students across town to do it, but they can do a lot of it right there. They can go in the courtyard and different things. So part of it with Chaz and I is just working to develop that partnership, more of a community relationship between the Q House and the Dixwell Church. We'll involve doing different fields.
Thank you.
Alderman Rodriguez, we also, several of us also work in public education. Malcolm, Ms. Lord, myself, my school is not far from your ward, in your ward at Betsy Ross and Kimberly Avenue.
Oh, yes.
So one of the things that we also try to do is bring our students to the Q House and to the work that we're doing at the Q House. And so any of your suggestions that you may have, it's beneficial for us to work together.
Thank you.
I'd be available to do that.
I thank you so much.
And Malcolm, I just would like to say that I didn't mean to single you out.
No, not at all.
I just wanted to know how, we want to make sure it's successful, and then without knowing the reason why your attendance was so low, we needed to find out and ask the question. And I thank you for understanding. Yeah.
I appreciate
If
it.
any of you have bad attendance, if you come up with a no, you'll be sitting in the hot seat next time.
Bring all the rest of it. They're a team now.
Yeah, but I think that, from what I'm hearing today, everything looks and sounds so good that you're really progressing in the way that other, facilities have tried and it never worked out, but you really are gung-ho in making it truly accessible to everyone, and thank you for that. And are you Charles Warner, Dr. Warner's son?
Yes, ma'am.
You just figured it out.
I just did. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, is he Dr. Warner's son?
One of them.
One of his sons?
One of them.
Yeah, but the only reason why I know Dr. Charles, well, I never call him Charles Warner. I called him Dr. Warner.
Indeed, Dr. Warner.
But I knew his name, first name was Charles. I always called him Dr. Warner.
Rodriguez, you want to keep looking at each other like we know. Were you ever a teacher?
You know what, I have a lot of sisters.
Sister.
And several of them are like, yes,
Okay.
and Princess.
Okay.
But I have done some teaching in the school system.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got a lot of sisters.
Yeah, Ms. Anna was my principal.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to let her know.
Okay, that's where I.
Yours too?
Well,
She had my
she
son.
ran the Saturday Spanish program, and me and my sister attended that. So we always get to play something every Saturday, and then I worked with her when I was at central office. So we worked very
I get so many hugs and kisses. The students confuse me with my sisters. And then I go home and I give it to them.
That's
That is so great. Any other further questions from the committee?
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
one thing I would like to advise, if you see things are not working and you have issues, please let us know.
Don't wait.
Don't
Okay.
wait.
I think the reason why you may not hear is because we usually hash it out with each other and then we
Okay.
solve it right then and there. And then if it doesn't get actionized, then we, we have those conversations.
Okay.
But everything that we have, we are a very vocal board. So
Okay.
everything that we've talked about and discussed, yeah, our meetings are long. So
Yes, they are.
yes, they are. So we
But
work
thank
hard.
you, I appreciate that. Like I said, because we hate to find out that the program is failing because no one let us know,
Yeah.
that something wasn't going. So I appreciate that. And in order to be successful, you have to be on top of stuff. So I appreciate the fact that you all are willing to do your part. And thank you very much for all of your efforts.
Just like we can reach to you, you can reach out to any of us.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for that.
We appreciate that. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Or even if you want to go on a QT, call me up. Just a big one there. Keep his mouth shut. Charlie the wiring shop.
And thank you for taking us as a group.
I also
Waited long enough,
I also want to acknowledge for the record, Mr. Ficklin's support, Alder Ficklin's support of the Q House Advisory Board. A lot of social media things brings to my attention, hey, you should probably respond to this. Hey, you should probably look at this. Hey, the community's asking. So thank you. Appreciate that.
I appreciate that comment. Only thing I want to mention is that, as everyone mentioned, we've reached a certain level of functionality. It's almost now we can shoot for the moon, we can shoot for Mars, we can really, Alder Rodriguez has referenced the possibility of transportation. He was referencing that. So there's really ways for us now to really build, and you're the metaphor of the central office is so important. So yeah, kudos to what you've established thus far through Heart, Mind, and Soul. But now it's really imagining where we go, and you think of Concord moving in, and Literature Hot is doing things. Hill Nelson is moving in. We may kind of reimagine the armory. There's things that they sort of areas citywide that the New Haven's on the move if we really play our cards right and create harmony every day that we can. So you guys are a harmony generation center. Even if you haven't talked about the senior citizen group is so strong. And senior citizen group, you guys had that bingo thing and you had your picnic. So there's so many components from birth, from cradle to grave that are now coming together. I really encourage you to really think imaginatively. And funding wise, you may need, I know we've allocated funding, but you may need this, you may need additional funding for some stuff. So lean on us as you've heard. If you want to lean on one another.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to acknowledge that our majority leader has also joined us this evening. Yes, also for. No, I didn't forget it. But thank you all. And,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you for staying so long.
Yeah.
How we done now? How are you? Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone here from the public who would like to testify in any of these candidates this evening? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to testify on behalf of any of the candidates this evening? Is there anyone here that can testify on behalf of any of these candidates? Thank you.
Chair, I move to close the public portion.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded, the public portion has been closed.
Very well. You want to talk?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I guess I'm getting a little,
Yes.
okay.
Here we go. Ready?
Yeah, thank you. Gary, LinkedIn.
We'll see you
We
again.
don't have to do it.
All right, Madam Chair, I move item number 1, the appointment of Paul Mayfield to the Commission on Aging.
Second.
It's moved in second to discussion. He didn't count.
Isn't he the person that didn't show up?
Yes,
I suppose that we should, because you do a letter from
yeah,
them.
yeah. So.
Madam Chair, I rescind my motion.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved in second discussion.
He didn't show up, so.
It's bad, right?
The chair has to do a letter to the president.
Okay. All in favor of doing, leave to withdraw?
Aye.
Against? No? Okay, the motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move item number 2, the appointment of Elena Grewal to the Fair Rent Commission.
Second.
It's been moved in second discussion.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alder Hamilton.
Ms. Greenwald, she's a data analyst, landlord. It seems like she's prepared and wanna work. In a way, honestly, for me, I'm not,
You're not comfortable?
no, but, you know, I will yield to the committee's decision.
Any further discussion? Yes, Alder Dismay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm in favor of Ms. Grewal. I think just because, while I think a colleague brought up, you know, in a later conversation about how important it is to balance data, you know, but also real experience. And I think when it comes to issues like affordable housing and fair rent and just issues related to housing in particular, I think it's always important to have that balance of thinking about data, specifically local data, but then also, you know, really taking a look at the reality and what's on the ground, what folks, you know, tenants and landlords are facing. And so I think despite, you know, the emphasis on data that she brought, I think that would be a great asset for the Fair Rent Commission and some of the work that they do and some of the work that they might collaborate or, you know, present or talk about to us as a board or to others. And so I think because of that, I think I'm in favor of her appointment. And I think being around the other Fair Rent commissioners will really keep her grounded. And I think it's always about finding a balance on commissions individually and then taking it as a group. So I'm in favor of her appointment.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move item number 3, appointment of John Hittner
Yes, you did.
to the Homeless Advisory Commission.
Second.
It's been moved in second discussion.
I'm in support.
Yes, you're in support?
Yes, ma'am.
Any further discussion? I'm sorry.
He's knowledgeable. He's passionate, and he'll be an asset. He was there before, and he's willing to, you know, come back and work with this commission. So I think he'll be great. I'm in favor.
Any further discussion? I agree with you. I think he has a lot of knowledge that has been buried, and we need to dust it off and bring it out.
He's like that homeless plan.
Yeah, the
Dust it
homeless
off.
plan.
Yeah, it's like in 2007 or so, there was a major press conference, you know, that here in the forum, announcing our 10-year plan to abolish homelessness. Major press event, it's launched as a 10-year plan, not year. So the tactical strategies and the plans are really informed, holistic, drifted, and I think we'll need, it's a good template for us to kind of follow and dust it off and manifest. Combine energy in the spirit and manifest.
Thank you.
Madam
Further?
Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to share that the Director of Homelessness of our city is in support of this appointment, and that this gentleman has also certain community services, so that with this experience and after not being on this commission for 2 years and coming back, I think that he would be an asset, especially in a time like this when we're addressing issues of the way that we are in terms of the tense city and aggregate housing and affordable housing, all stemming to eliminate or eradicate homelessness. I think he would be a good person to help make that work happen in the commission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, the motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move item number 4, the appointment of Emily Sigmund to the Board of Parks Commissioners.
Second.
Has been moved in second discussion.
I
Yes,
like her.
Dr. Hanson, I apologize.
She seemed very interested in helping to improve parks, and I like her thoughts of seniors in the parks and having accessibility for handicapped. So I think it's going to be a positive thing to have her on that commission.
Alder Hamilton.
Yeah, I second what Alder Antunes have said. Yeah, she's very knowledgeable, willing to work, and yeah, I'm in favor of her, definitely.
Any other? Yes. Alder Pickering.
I'm in favor of her because I love the way she tiptoed around not answering all the answered questions. But it was a transparent answer. There were exceptions on the table, as well as being open to changes. So that kind of candor and transparency is what we need with people day in, day out.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, while we, as we look at all the information that she provided to us in writing and all her experience and expertise in this area, and being a lecturer, and it concerns me as to how she would benefit from the commission, while on the other hand, she has all this expertise and experience and literature and writings that would, I believe, be a tremendous of freshness to go into the commission and to hopefully make it even better. One thing she has committed to is preserving parks and making them more beautiful in our city, and I think that's very significant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? I had some similar reservations. She's well documented. She has so much knowledge, and she has so much information on literature that she prepared and grants, things like that, that it almost makes me feel like maybe the Parks Commission would not be a good fit for her. But then I think about it, and I said that she's got a lot of energy and excitement to sitting on this commission. Maybe a new perspective that we haven't seen. And that's what I'm hoping she'll get out of it.
My hypothesis, and Alex, maybe draw you into this. My hypothesis is that a lot of the reasonably recent Yale grads, they build in, and the ones that I Yale grads that I respect, that are understanding that academics and ivory power run from the real life is not. Ones that have stayed in New Haven really are now finding that you can have a PhD at the yin yang, but if you're not involved in the trenches or making your vision come home, you're going to have a sense of not feeling rewarded and or a sense of exploiting. So we have had Yale grads when we get exploited urban centers. Some of the more well-meaning ones really realize that I could be a lecturer, a Pulitzer Prize winner, but I really got to kind of sink down to the community and feel good about myself. From a generation standpoint, I really sense Alex's cohort and this young lady's cohort understand that they benefited from the largesse of Yale and largesse of the Leeds. Now, how do you get back in the way?
That's the way I'm thinking.
So that's the sense that I get from her. So I have a reservation for some. And she's apparently connected to Steve. So there's that vibe going on in the city of I don't say John Brown allies, but allies that are around that we can really maximize our mutual interests.
Okay, great. Okay, there's no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Madam Chair, move item number 5, appointment of Adam Waters to the Board of Zoning Appeals as an alternate.
Second.
It's moved in second discussion.
I just, I'm happy that he recognized the fact that even as an alternate, he needs to attend the meeting, because I think we had a candidate once before that was an alternate on another commission. And he says, well, they never called me, so I didn't go to the meeting.
Yeah.
And it really didn't make a lot of sense. It's like being an alternate on a jury. If you're not in there,
Yeah, you don't know.
yeah, you don't know if you get called. You don't know what's going on. Thank you, ma'am.
Any further
Madam
discussion?
Chair, and I loved the way Alder Rodriguez emphasized that point to him. He's a valued member. The way that she diplomatically.
I think he got the message, Alder Rodriguez's message about the importance of, though you're an alternate, it's important to also be knowledgeable about what the board is doing, so that if you did have to step in and be at a meeting, you know, you wouldn't be in the lurch and not have the knowledge of what they're working on. So I think he got that point, and for that reason, I feel like I would support him as an alternate.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
although Mr. Waters didn't provide a lot in writing, what he did provide was an interest and a commitment to learn. And I think that could make a great alternate, and also, who knows, maybe eventually an official commissioner. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's important. Thank you. Madam
Okay,
Chair.
no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Yeah.
Please, Madam Chair, I move items 6, 7, 8, and 9 together.
No, actually, you can also move. Oh, okay, that's fine.
The others are reading.
Yeah. Of the appointments of Crystal Gooding, Edith.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, which ones was that again?
6, 7, 8, and 9.
7 and 8. Need amendments.
All right, let's
So
move
6, 7, and 9. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, 9 needs an amendment as well, 6 and 7.
6 and 7 we can do. So, Madam Chair, I move items 6 and 7, the appointment of Crystal Gooding and Edith Rawls to the Fieldhouse Advisory Board.
Has been moved in second discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
They've been serving, as I said, already on the board. They seem to all be knowledgeable and get along well right here in the demonstration of the support for even each other and how they worked on the board already. So I certainly look to support them.
Any further discussion? Alder Hamilton.
Yeah, they seem to work as a very cohesive group, you know, addressing all the different needs of the Q House facility on a whole. And yeah, I'm in favor and support of them.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, before we go to the next motion, amendments we need it for 8 and 9?
Yes, number 8, just needs the term expiration date needs to be amended from December 31st, 2024 to December 8th, 2023.
218.
And that should be on the very bottom of page 5.
Yes, I have it right. All right, so we'll do.
And I apologize, I'm getting tired this evening. Number 7 has an amendment that's needed as well. Number 7 is Ms. Rawls.
Yeah, she needs an amendment too as well.
With the same term?
No.
It's the same term, it's the same term, but there's, needs to change the member
Yeah,
position
the
as
member
well.
position, yeah.
Okay, so we have to rescind the motion on number 7 and restart.
If you could please, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
About
I
that.
rescind the motion on number 7 due to the need of an amendment.
Second.
Okay, moved in second discussion.
And that's to be amended.
Okay,
So,
And number 7, to make it easier, you could just amend it by substitution.
what's right here?
I got a mask.
okay.
No cold, no allergies.
How do I word this now? So we need to amend first and vote as amended. Correct. Madam Chair, I move to amend item number 7. Based on the term of expiration date needs to be amended from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2023. And member position needs to be changed to community at large.
Second.
Moved in second discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Madam Chair, I move item number 7 as amended.
Second.
It's been moved in second discussion. You just did it. You just did it.
No, we amended. Now we have to move it as amended.
Oh, okay,
We just,
go ahead.
I did.
Yeah.
so the amendment is changing the term from, what are those dates?
December 24th to December 23rd.
2023. All right, and then changing the title, right, to at-large member?
The community.
At large, yeah, so that is, the reason for the
That's
amendment.
everything that I just said.
Yeah,
And we're restating it for the discussion portion,
Okay.
correct?
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed? The motion carries.
So,
Okay, item number 8 needs to be amended as well.
okay,
Just the dates.
Therefore, I move item number 8 to be amended for the Anthony Thorpe. We need to amend the dates from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved in second discussion. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move item number 8 as amended.
Second.
Moved in second discussion.
discussion, change the date, term date, that's it.
Okay, seeing that there's no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Madam Chair, I move item number 9, the appointment of Charles Warner Jr. to the Q House with an amendment that the date be changed December 31st, 2024 to December 18th, 2023.
Okay, it's moved in second discussion.
It was amended.
Thank you. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
We'll get it all at once then. All right, we're moving on to
Number
item
10.
number 10, appointment of Karen Jenkins to the Historic District Commission.
These are reappointments.
Yeah.
And see, since she didn't have to attend,
So you could do. You can also do
Can we
10,
do all
11,
these,
yeah.
10, 11,
but
12?
it's
Yeah, do
different,
all
it's
of
different,
them.
but there's 3 different committees, commissions.
I don't think it matters.
10 to 17.
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay, that's easy. Madam Chair, I move items number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, as they're all reappointments and did not have to appear.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
according to the work and research of our staff, the attendance rate for all of these candidates have been good. And there is indication that these boards would like to see them return.
Thank you.
Could you please just amend that to not include number 15, number 14, and number 15 as they need to be amended? Making you work tonight. 14 and 15? Missing 14 and 15.
Hold on there. And then they can do the.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Madam Chair, I'd like to amend item number 14. The reappointment of Michael Moreland to the Q House Advisory Board. The term to be changed to from December 13, 2025 to December 18, 2023. And the reappointment of George Perez to the Q House Advisory Board. The same dates of expiration, December 31, 2025 to December 18, 2023.
Okay, it's moved in second discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? The motion carries. You all done?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I move we
Make a motion to close the meeting?
To adjourn.
No, to adjourn the meeting. I
Adjourn the meeting.
remember,
Yeah.
to adjourn the meeting. Oh, yes,
Just have one
yes,
new business
yes.
request.
What?
I'd like to say something.
Oh,
Oh, haven't you said?
I have said enough. I have said enough, I'll admit. that Several meetings ago, we requested, correct me if I'm wrong, the list of commission vacancies, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, we
I
did.
would still like to have officially, officially request that information.
Perfect.
That's what did you get it?
Yes, we didn't get it. So if you would make a note to staff, please address that issue so we can move forward. And since we didn't adjourn the meeting yet, would you like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
second.
Please move in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. So the motion carries.
I'm gonna get you.
We are adjourned.
Sorry.
We are adjourned.
Watch your back when you walk outside.
Thank you.
Actually, Alder, no,
Mr. Lucas. Well,
Mr. Lucas, sat in that chair back there. He looked like